Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our next Big Ideas lesson, 1.4, page 24 in your Big Ideas book. We're going to continue working with integers today. We're going to apply what we learned to find the products of integers with same signs and with different signs. And of course, I'm going to ask you to think nice and loud when I hear the word product. What operation am I having? That's right, I'm dealing with multiplication. So we take those factors. Factors are numbers that we multiply to get a product. That's the answer to the multiplication question. And then real briefly, we got dots now. We're not going to use X's anymore. And I know the book will use it once in a while, and that's confusing, but we're not supposed to use X's. Those are something we're going to call variables later on this year. We're going to use dots, we're going to use parentheses, and we're going to use proximity. In other words, I can go 5 with an X, a variable next to it. That means 5 times X. Or I can put the proximity of that number next to parentheses. That's 5 times the number inside. I can also put 2 parentheses next to each other. This is ways that we designate that we are multiplying some factors together. Our essential question, ladies and gentlemen, is the product of 2 integers, positive, negative, or 0, and how can you tell? Now, real quickly, of course, when we go through the next pages, you're going to want to make sure you're looking, listening, and learning before you pick up that pen and pencil and take down your notes. So you're going to look, listen, and learn, and then when I tell you, you're going to pause the video and you're going to write down the notes. If I forget to tell you, then you just pause the video on your own, back it up, and then copy down that page before you hit play and go to the next set of notes. Now, some of the pages, some of the slides, I'll be doing 2 examples at a time, and then I'll have you write down both examples before I go to the next slide of the notes. So, ladies and gentlemen, being a person of character and intelligence, I know you already went to the top of page 24 and you wrote down the notes on the rules for multiplying integers. And with those rules, you said, hey, if you copied it right from the book, it looked like this. The product of 2 integers with the same sign is positive. Because right now, we're only dealing with multiplying integers with the same sign. And when they have the same sign, the answer is positive. Now, you probably already have that written down, and you probably don't have this. So I'm going to add something you're going to put in just a moment. I want to do a visual. In other words, if I have a positive integer and I'm multiplying by another positive integer, the answer is going to be positive. You're going to know that before you actually do the math. In fact, you've been doing positive integers since you started multiplying. But now it's saying if I have a negative integer and I multiply it by another negative integer, the answer is also going to give me a positive integer. My product will be positive. Now that might not make sense to you, and that's okay. I am actually going to explain that to you by doing a mini lesson in class tomorrow explaining exactly why a negative times a negative is positive. Completely different than a negative plus a negative. Remember, a negative plus a negative will give you a negative answer, but a negative times a negative gives you a positive answer. So ladies and gentlemen, here's what we're going to be talking about. When we're looking at these problems now, again, just like we did with addition and subtraction, the first thing I do is I look at the operation. I look at the operation first. 6 times 9. And then I say, what are the signs? Are the signs the same or are the signs different? Because the operation gives us a set of rules to follow, and then the sign defines that set of rules that we are going to follow. So a positive 6 and a positive 9, we know that the signs are the same, so the resulting answer is positive. And if I have a negative 6 times a negative 9, again, I'm multiplying, the signs are the same, so my answer will be positive. All right? Let's do a couple examples. Go ahead and copy down from here before you move on to the first 2 examples. So, ladies and gentlemen, multiplying integers with the same sign. So I'm going to multiply a negative 7 times a negative 8. I see we're multiplying. I see that the signs are the same. It's negative and negative. I know the resulting answer will be positive. And 7 times 8, showing my work, 56, and it's positive. Remember, if it's positive, you do not need to put a plus sign in front of it. Any number without a negative sign in it is positive. So we're going to do 2 examples. Here's the second one, finding 9 times 12 as a positive 9 times a positive 12. Multiplying with the same signs, so we know my answer is positive. 9 times 12 is 108, so the resulting answer is 108. Go ahead and pause, write that down, and join me on the next slide. Oh, welcome back. Multiplying integers now with different signs. So if you have not already written down the notes for multiplying with different signs from the top of page 24. Go ahead and do that. Now that you have that written down, you probably wrote this very thing. The product of two integers with different signs will give you a negative product. Again, I'm going to give you some things that you're going to add to your notes. You're going to say, now if I have a positive and I multiply it by a negative, my resulting answer is a negative. Different sign factors gives me a negative product. If I reverse the order, negative times a positive, my resulting answer is still negative. So you will definitely put that down when I'm done with this slide. So again, looking at a multiplication problem, 6 times a negative 9, I'm multiplying. First thing I do is say to myself, I am multiplying, that's my operation, and then the signs are different this time. So I know my resulting answer is negative before I even do the math. 6 times 9, 54. The signs are different, it's negative, so my answer is negative 54. And of course, if I reverse the order, negative 6 times 9, I have a negative times a positive. 6 times 9 is 54, and since their signs are different, the answer is negative. Okay? Go ahead and write that down and join me on our next 2 examples. All right, multiplying integers with different signs. So we have a negative 7 times 12. I'm multiplying. My signs are different, a negative and a positive. I know my resulting answer is negative. 7 times 12 is 84. The signs are different, the answer is negative, so we get negative 84. And on example number 4, 8 times a negative 9. Again, we are multiplying. The signs are different, a positive times a negative, so my answer is negative. 8 times 9 is 72. My answer is negative, so we get negative 72. Go ahead and write that down and join me on the next slide. This time we're multiplying 4 times a negative 3 times a negative 2. Okay, stop, look, and listen, please. What you're going to be doing when you copy this next 2 examples down is you're going to draw a line down the middle of your paper, because we're going to write something above example 5 and above example 6. So above example 5, you're going to write down something that says an even number of negative factors will give you a positive product. Okay? So when I have 4 times negative 3 times a negative 2, I have 2 negative factors, a negative 3 and a negative 2. That 2 of those gives me a even number of negative factors, so I know my resulting answer is positive. Now, what property says I can multiply in any order I want? That's right, commutative property says that, and I like to do same signs. So I'm actually going to go here first with the same signs. I'm going to go negative 3 times a negative 2, and I'm going to get same signs, positive. 3 times 2 is 6, so I end up with 4 times 6 now. And of course, they're both positive, and I'm multiplying. So I'm going to multiply those to get to 24. Since the signs are the same, the answer is positive 24. Makes sense. Let's do one very similar to that, but a little different. So in example number 6, oops, I had put my line in the wrong spot. Example number 6, now we're multiplying a negative 2 times a negative 4 times a negative 6. And above this one, we're going to say if I have an odd number of negative factors, then the answer will be negative. So no matter how many factors we have, if we count up the number of negative ones, and it's an odd number of negative factors, the answer will be negative. So again, multiplying this, I have a negative 2 times a negative 4. I'm multiplying, the signs are the same. 2 times 4 is 8. Since we have the same signs, it is a positive 8, and I still have to multiply that by a negative 6. So I'm multiplying. The signs are different, positive times a negative. So my answer is going to be negative. 8 times 6 is 48. And since I have different signs, my answer is negative 48. So go ahead and pause the video. Please make sure you write down those sentences above examples 5 and 6, and then copy down the examples before you join me for the next slide of examples. Oh, we don't have another slide of examples. We have come to the end. We've come to the end of our first video tonight, our first quick write. So please write down 2 complete sentences in your own words. The first one to explain what factors will give you a positive answer. The next one, a complete sentence to explain what factors give you a negative answer. And then you have have 2 multiplication problems to do. Write those down. Hey, when you're done doing that quick write, please take a quick break. Get a drink, get a snack, talk to your mom about what you looked at and learned, and then come back and join us for our second video tonight. See you in a minute.